Coming to you live. Well, good evening, everyone that's out there today, and welcome to Block Sports. It's great to be back here once again, and it's great to see everyone that's out there that's able to join me tonight. This past month, the month of July, I racked up a lot of miles on my car and a lot of hotel stays because I was able to go to all four of the major HBCU Football Conferences media days. And being able to do that for the very first time, it was very enlightening to see the different setups, the different predictions, how everything appeared for each group of media, for each region, for each location that was there and that was represented. And just to get in, to be able to talk to the coaches. I was not able to talk to all of the coaches. Heck, I wasn't even able to talk to all of the coaches in the conference which I frequent the most, and that's the Swac conference. But at the same time, just being able to have a chance to speak to the coaches, to speak to some of the players, and listen to some of them, and just to hear and see their mindset for what they believe they would be able to do this year. It's interesting. The one thing that I can easily say, it doesn't matter where you finished last year. When you speak to the players and the coaches, they believe that this year they can get to number one. They believe that this year they should be in a position to take out whoever won last year. They believe that this will be the year, regardless if they didn't win a game last year or if they only won one or two games. They believe that this is the year for them, and watching them, seeing them, and just being able to hear each and every player, each and every coach say, hey, this is it. I believe it. I know it's going to happen. Guess what? We're going to win, and we're going to the championship game. And it was very enlightening to hear that from each and every player, each and every coach, whether they won the conference the previous year or whether they finished at the very bottom. And that was very good to hear. Very good to see that from all of the coaches. And it didn't matter if it was from the CIAA, didn't matter if it was the SIAC, didn't matter if it was the Swac, and it did not matter if it was the MEAC. All across the board, top to bottom. And even the teams that won the conference in 2021, they felt like, you know what? That was last year. That was last year's team. And because that was last year's team, guess what? This is a new team. We're starting 0-0, and we're just like everyone else. We have to start from the beginning and work our way through the season. Game 1 is starting September 3rd. And some, it will start August 27th on week 0 against, that'll be Alabama State against Howard University in Atlanta. And it will be played at the Georgia State University Football Stadium. And looking forward to participating and hopefully being at that particular event, at that particular game, and just to see how each team will perform. But the bottom line is, I was in the order of the media days that I went to and that they actually took place. You had the SIAC, that was first, followed by the CIAA, then the Swac, and everything culminated last Friday with the MEAC. And the MEAC put on a great, even though it's only 6 schools, but they put on a very good media day event. And don't get me wrong, all four had exceptional media days. So let me first say that all four conferences put out great media days, first and foremost. So I need to make sure that that is stated and that is understood. But I really thought the format in which the MEAC put theirs out was just a little bit better because they gave the media time to deal with all of the coaches and the players before they had the opportunity to go on stage and work with ESPN, or should I say the headline media that was there. And that gave other media outlets the opportunity to have unfeathered access to the players and the coaches. And I thought that was a very, very good way to go instead of shuffling the coaches and players out. And don't get me wrong, we still had access to the coaches and to the players, even at the other conferences. But the way the MEAC put it on, they really had a really good setup. And so kudos to all of the conferences, but kudos to the MEAC. I really liked the way they had the way everything was set up. But as we talk about that, let's go and take a look at, or should I say, let's revisit how the 2021 season finished and how the 22 season is projected to finish. As the prognosticators have indicated, this is how they believe that it will go. Now, whether or not it finishes this way is another story, but it's always left to be seen whether or not it's going to end up this way. So let's go ahead and open this up real quick. And I see we may have a couple of guests coming in to the room. And as they're able to come in, we're going to allow them to, our guests to come in, speak, and have a great moment of conversation of what they believe they were able to see at the same time. But as they're coming in and as they're preparing, and as I can see, we got AD up here. And
Mike.
Let me make sure I get him on the screen here. And let me switch over here. AD, what's up? How you doing, Doc?
What's going on, Brother Jefferson?
Hey, another beautiful day in the neighborhood. And
man, depending on the neighborhood you're in.
Hey, I cannot argue with you on that one. But but it's one of those things. It's just great to be here and great to see another beautiful day in the neighborhood. And as a matter of fact, for those who are watching the show, AD was with me. Gosh, at three of the four.
Just two.
Two of the four
media
days that I was able to attend. And I tell you, the one thing I said earlier is that I felt that the MEAC really put together a pretty good show. Now, don't get me wrong. All four media days were exceptionally great. All four. How do you feel about that? For the two that you went to.
I agree. From the ones that I was actually able to attend, they were put together. And then I did the CIAA with you.
Mm-hmm.
I did the Swac.
Yes.
Now, when I say they're good, people have to consider. You're talking a Division II conference, SIAC, CIAA, and for their space, their resources, and what they have to offer, they did a good job with what they had.
Yes, they did.
And naturally, when you go to an FCS media day, i.e. the Swac and the MEAC, you're naturally going to expect a little bit more because they are bigger conferences.
That's right.
And not necessarily bigger in numbers because the SIAC has, check that, the CIAA and the Swac have the same amount of teams playing football.
Right.
But as far as resources, especially monetary resources, you got to expect a little bit more because in theory they should have more money to spend.
That's right. That's right. And of course, as you saw, the SWAC really did. They put on a different show over all of the other conferences combined. It was a little different. It was.
It was.
Yeah.
It definitely was. And I'll say this. You think maybe the SWAC has outgrown its venue, and maybe necessarily not outgrown its venue, because that's a very large venue that they have, but they may need more space in that venue.
I'll say it this way. With everything that you actually see that the SWAC is doing, and with the amount of media attention that they're receiving, I believe that and depending on how it goes next year, I would say it would probably be time for them to do something similar to what some of the FBS schools are actually doing. And what I mean by that is, instead of having one massive day, maybe breaking it up into a second day. And if they did something like that, it would be very hard to say, because you have the more popular schools, the Jackson State, Alcorn Southern, Florida A&M, Grambling. You couldn't just put those schools on one day. There's no way.
But you'd have to go east-west.
You have to go east-west. And then that way it makes it a lot more logical, a lot more reasonable, because you have Jackson State, Florida A&M, in one division, then you have Alcorn, Graham, and Southern in the other division. And with that, you have a lot more balance, because you can't say, oh, wow, they stacked everybody over here, and you don't have anyone hardly over here. But no, right. I have to agree with you on that.
Let me play devil's advocate to your theory. It's a podcast. We can't agree on everything, even if we actually agree on everything.
That's right.
But
let's go with it.
We've got to come with two different opinions, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Instead of having everything all together, like you said, but it not going 2 days, let's split somewhere in the middle. Let's have a morning session, 9 to 12, east. Let's break for lunch. Then come back 1 to 4, west. Or something along those lines. So that instead of you trying to chase down and talk to 12 teams within a 2-3 hour block, you've got 3 hours to focus on 6 teams, which is pretty much what the B.L.O.C.K media day is. 6 teams, about a 3-hour block. Refresh yourself, get a break, because you can use that hour break right there.
Yes.
From 12 to 1 as a member of the media, I know I could.
Yes, I know. Yes, that is so true.
And then come back 1 to 4, focus on the other half of the conference, and then everybody's happy. Now you don't necessarily have to go 2 days. I think you go to that first, and then when it outgrows a format like that, then you break off into the 2 days. Now, the city of Birmingham or whatever city that the media day is in would love that 2-day format.
Oh, they would love it, because that means more money for them.
That's another night in the hotel.
That's right.
Probably of the members of the media who were there, probably 70% of them came in the night before. Obviously, the local media drove from their house. Well, actually, technically, I didn't get in the night before, but I did sleep in my hotel before the thing, because it was actually after midnight by the time I got in.
Look, understand.
I got in the same day as the media day, but then obviously you'd have to get in the night before. You have to sleep over in the between day, and then obviously you're out of town on the next day. That's more hotel tax. That's more food, because
more restaurant money.
gonna have to go out and eat that night afterwards and everything like that. So, and if you do that 2-day format,
Yeah.
you gotta start the evening on. I would think I would start the evening on day one and then come back in
In the morning
on day
session.
2 instead of 2 midday sessions.
Now
That's just
now I like that setup. But going back though to what you said earlier, if you did one full day, they have, since the Swac and the Swac and I believe the MEAC, they're the only two that actually has a format that is set up with a larger media outlet. And because they have it set up with a larger media outlet, the question is, how would you make that format work with a break, with one division in the morning and the next division in the afternoon? Would you have the larger media outlet taking an evening, starting let's just say at 5 o'clock?
what I would like to see, first of all, since we're talking about it, I'd like to see a press conference style time. Now that could be all 12 coaches, that could be 6 to 6 or something along those lines, before you get into the dog and pony show, as I like to call it. And that was Jay Walker and Tiffany Green up there asking questions. And no disrespect to them when I say that, but they're up there. They're producing a TV show. Basically, they're doing a TV show.
Yeah, and that's it.
But if you had a press conference style, I wonder how many times we, as members of the media, the web media, traditional media, radio media, ask those coaches and players the same question.
and you know what? I would have to agree with you, because if you notice, by the time they get to you, it's almost as if they're ready for an answer, because the answer is almost right there. It's rehearsed and it's prepared.
I should have said that. So the next person asks me, I would change it up just a
little bit. Just a little bit.
Right. Just a little bit, so I could get my point out like I wanted to get it out. But if you had that in a press conference style, now that one question, everybody take their notes down. I has their camera running, I has the recorder running.
Right.
Boom. You've answered that question. So now, during those 5-10 minutes that we get with those athletes and or coaches,
right,
we can really ask the question that we really want to know. We don't have to get the, do you feel disrespected that you were chosen number 6 in the conference? Or what does it feel like to be one of the athletes chosen from your team? We can get all that out the way during the press conference.
Yes.
Now I want to know. Now I can ask, hey, you did this last year. What have you changed in your game? Or so, I could get into the meat of the questions that I want to ask the athletes. After you instead of just having to keep it so generic.
Yeah, after you get past the fluff questions.
Exactly.
How does it feel being chosen, and the coach? How does it feel after going 1-8 or 2-7 or whatever the case may be? Understand?
Hey, you're a new hire. What are you going to do different? Your team has won in 20 years. What are you going to do different?
Yeah.
Get all that out the way, because everybody's going to ask that.
Everybody's going to ask that one question, and that coach has to go through it 200 times or 7 times or 10 times. So that much I have to agree.
Now, if that would occur in that format or even the current format, I don't know. That's what Andrew Roberts gets paid to figure out. Maurice Williams gets paid,
and
to figure
Karen
out.
Carty.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what those guys get paid to figure out.
That would be an interesting setup if they went back to, because as a matter of fact, that's what they did for the MEAC Swac Challenge with the Alabama State and Howard's coach. That's what they did. They used that particular format, and they were able to go ask questions from the media that was in the audience, and they were able to allow for media that was that signed in virtually. They had them to come in and ask questions, and they didn't allow a lot of time, but they did allow for both areas to ask questions. And that would be an interesting way to do that. Now, at the media day, the one thing I do not know is whether or not they had a virtual session.
They did.
They did have a virtual session?
I don't know if you remember at the Swac. I don't know if you remember the setup, how we were all spread out throughout the room. But in the space between Black College Sports Network, who I was there representing, and HBCU Game Day,
right?
There was a Mac table and everything. That was the virtual.
That was the virtual setup. Okay,
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and there was another table where somebody was probably about 30, 40 feet away, where somebody was controlling the Zoom that the coaches were talking on.
Understand. And yes, I did miss that because I was completely on the other side of the room. Yes, I was on the other side of the room with Roland Martin. And so for that side of the room, I had no idea. I knew that you guys were there. I knew HBCU Game Day was over there. Right. But as far as everything that transpired, missed it.
and it was beneficial for us because as soon as they got off that, we would either catch them right before they got on the virtual portion
or right after
they out, depending on, okay, they're sitting up there waiting. Hey, coach, can we? You got to be on it how long? Okay, we get you 5 minutes over here,
and that worked.
And it worked as soon as they got off while they were there, because the SID was there with them.
Yes,
we tap them on the shoulder. Hey, brother. When you get done, don't forget about us right over here to your left.
And as a matter of fact, I was able to take advantage of the same thing where I was with Roland Martin. All of the coaches that were going on his show, I was able to tap and say, hey, as soon as you finish over there, come over here and make sure you get a chance to be interviewed over here. And the only two coaches that I missed was Coach Jackson from Grambling, and also my own alma mater, Coach Prime. Missed both of those. However, I was able to get everyone else that came over, and some of the other coaches I was able to get a hold of. But those were the two that I really wanted to get that I missed for the Swac conference. And however, everyone else I was able to take advantage of. Able to got good questions answered, good questions asked them what they do for fun. I was able to break up the monotony a little bit, because instead of asking the same questions over and over again, you always want to just break up the monotony. What do you do for fun? And
correct.
And that was a little different. They kind of looked and were like, oh, okay. Yeah. and that was good.
Unfortunately, I had to stick to the script because of limited time. I had to get those
pointed questions,
football questions out, and let them move on to their next interview.
And that was the disadvantage when you pulled them just before they had to go to the virtual.
Yes.
And that happened to me once. Oh gosh, I think that was at the yes, at the CIAA, and once at the MEAC, because I was able to get the coach from Delaware State, and just before he was able to go on stage, just before he was able to go on stage, and I had less than 5 minutes with him, but I was able to get him.
Correct.
So that was good.
So stop. Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Since I didn't get to all of them, CIAA, SIAC. What were the noticeable differences that you noticed in those two media days? What were the similarities, between the two?
The one thing I can easily say in terms of having to go back and remember the SIAC, because that was the first one. Correct. They actually really had a good setup. Their setup was closer. Actually, their setup was closer to what, almost to the MEAC, in terms of size and quality and what they offered. As you said, being they're not FCS, but in terms of what they offered and how they put together their event was very well. All four were very well put together. So I cannot say anything negative against anyone. At worst case, I would say the CIAA would get an 8. And the SIAC would probably get an 8. And that's as far as I'm concerned. Right. Because I really do think they really did put on a great show. I was there for setup the night before, how they prepared for the CIAA, that is. Watched them prepare, watched them set up. I was there the night before for the Swac and also for the MEAC. For the SIAC, I was not able to get there the night before. So I didn't get a chance to see what all went on behind the scenes. But for the other 3, I was able to see what went on behind the scenes. But not seeing the behind the scenes work for the SIAC, I was able to speak to Tyler, and yes, she ran a very tight show.
Yes.
Very tight show. And I appreciated that for what she did and for how she put it together and how she made it work. And I, as a matter of fact, I hope to be able to work with all 4 conferences again because of how well run each media day was done.
Correct. I got one more. I know this is your show, but
go for it.
I got to ask you this one.
Uh-huh.
All right. So now I'm supposed to come with my off the wall question for you.
Go for it.
Rank the food from 1 to 4 between the 4 media days.
You know what, AD? Let me be very honest with you. I didn't get a chance to eat at any of them.
Bruh.
I'm serious. I did not get it. I ate breakfast at the I ate breakfast at the CIAA.
Okay.
And that was it for all 4 media days. I saw the food. As a matter of fact, Andrew said, "Man, look, you need to for the Swac."
Swac.
Andrew mentioned to me, "Look, dude, you need to go and get some food. They got a good spread over here. You need to take a break and get some food." But since it was only me and I was the only one there and I was live, I didn't want to take that time to go and get some food, to come back with greasy hands and chomping while I'm live. So that was the only reason why for all 4 I didn't take that time. But because the SIAC was a lot more condensed, even though you had more coaches, but it was a lot more condensed in terms of that time. It was in and it was out. But at the same time, I missed all of the food. So for the 2 that you were at, how do you rate it?
Oh, I got to get the Swac their props on their spread.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 that was there. CIAA was sandwiches, salads, more of a light lunch type thing. Yes, you can get full off of it. Make your own sandwich. You had your salads. You had you had your cookies. It was a lunch type. It was a lunch type spread.
A light lunch type spread.
A light lunch. The Swac,
they laid it out.
You had a meal.
Wow.
They put the disclaimer out here.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say this: the opinions that I'm about to express are my opinions only.
And not
the opinions of B.L.O.C.K Sports and your street TV. But,
go for
it, bruh. You know you can't have that many black folk and have fried chicken.
Okay.
So you know the fried chicken was tight at times. You know, you come to that, they number 3 pieces in the pan. Now they were refreshing it, but you know you can't have that many black folk at the same place and serve fried chicken.
Okay, I have to ask. Did they have someone there parsing out the food?
No, you.
Are you serious? No one was there parsing out the food.
with the fried chicken, the macaroni.
Oh, now see, you can't. Yeah, no, I agree with you. You cannot have macaroni and cheese and fried chicken with a lot of black folk and not have someone saying, "Okay, you can only have two pieces."
You only get two pieces.
You only get two pieces, and if you come back twice, you get one.
And when I went up there, they was out of legs.
See, they better be glad they didn't have fights.
They had double white meat. They had double white meat in the pan when I got up. No, they had thighs and white meat when I got up there. Because everybody had gone through.
Just went through.
When the wings left, when no legs left. I'm like, those are two pieces of meat that I eat.
Now, see, for me, having marched in the band for 4 years, you take what you get, and so.
Oh, I took it. Now, don't get me wrong. I was able to make a spread for what was up there.
All because you didn't have a choice.
It was just the pieces of meat that I would have preferred were not in the pan. When I went through there,
wow.
And I was not gonna wait in line for them to bring out
another pan.
Because, like I say, we was on a time schedule. So, and shout out to you because you were there. You did all 4 of those by yourself.
Yeah.
Black Collar Sports Network. We did all 4, but we had a team.
Yeah.
And based upon, and we talked about this last night on our HBCU Pro Sports Media Association Zoom.
Right.
Based upon our schedules and everything else, that's who showed up. Okay, you available. Okay, 3 y'all show up, 4 y'all show up.
That's
okay, right. That's how we did it. You did all this by yourself. So I don't know if your people who are your followers really understand the magnitude of doing that production by yourself. First of all, it's not like you went there and got B-roll footage. You went there, you went live.
Yeah.
And if you understand the setup, I don't care if it's your setup, my setup, whoever setup it is, it takes time.
It takes time.
To set that stuff up. If you're using their Wi-Fi, Lord Jesus, you better hope that the Wi-Fi is strong enough for you and everybody else is there. Or if you bring your own hotspot,
you better be able to get out.
You better hope that in that city that you're in, that there's a tower close enough where your hotspot
can work.
Actually works. Because I've been there, I've gotten everything, and I got 1 bar.
Wow.
So, do I got to go through? Can I slow it down so it can still go out and just go with a reduced quality? Or there are all different types of stuff. It takes
planning.
It really takes minimum 2 hours to get a setup.
Yes.
When you're on the road for a live show.
And see, that's why I said for the last 3, the CIAA. I'll get that later. For the CIAA, the MEAC and the SWAC, for those 3, I was able to partial setup the night before.
Yeah.
And because I was able to do partial setups the night before, that helped me out immensely. And then for the as a matter of fact, for the CIAA, I was able to locate my table, locate my setup, and that helped. Instead of trying to say, okay, well, can I set up over here? Can I set up over there? Can I find a place over here? And I was able to map out in my head, okay, what I wanted to do and how I wanted to set up.
What equipment you needed to bring in based on your location.
Exactly.
Yes.
And as far as the SIAC, first one, bring everything in. But fortunately, I've gotten it down because I've been doing this for a few years. I was able to bring it down to a small footprint. So for each one of those locations, I have a very small footprint that I can work within. And for when you go to these media days, especially when you have the Swac conference with the 12 teams, and you had roughly, I think Commissioner McClellan indicated they had roughly 250 outlets.
Correct.
That was at that particular media day. And can you imagine 250 outlets at one media day? The MEAC, they had roughly as many as 50. The other two, the SIAC and the CIAA, they may have had a maximum of 20, maybe, and excuse me, may have had a maximum of 20, could have been 25, but you have one outlet that has roughly 250. One conference that had roughly 250 media outlets covering it. That says a lot.
That really does.
And a lot of people, whether you hate him, you love him, you like him, or dislike him, Coach Prime has done a lot for HBCU football. Now, he did not go to an HBCU conference. He did not go to an HBCU team. He did not play for an HBCU team.
But he does have an HBCU degree.
Yes. He does. He does have an HBCU degree from Talladega.
I wonder how many people? I was going to see how you gave it away. I was like, I wonder how many people actually know that.
Yeah,
he actually finished up at Talladega.
He actually finished up his degree in Talladega. How far is that, as a matter of fact, from Tallahassee? I mean, they're in roughly the same state. I think they're in Jacksonville, right?
You mean from Tuskegee? No, Talladega is in Alabama.
I'm sorry. That's right. They're in Alabama. I'm actually thinking about another. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about another school. But anyway,
Talladega is about an hour east of Birmingham, going back towards Atlanta off of I-20. Coming from Montgomery, it's maybe about 1:45 to 2 hours from Montgomery, and it's about an hour 45 from Tuskegee, Alabama. Just kind of giving you a
general.
Yeah, and coming out of Atlanta about hour 30, hour 45 from Atlanta.
And I was actually thinking about Edward Waters, because they're located in Jacksonville.
Correct.
But yes, so he was able to finish up with an HBCU degree. And he has brought a lot of eyes on the HBCU community. And the one thing that I'll say, that I have said, and I'll say it publicly again, HBCU football has not changed just because Coach Prime came into the Swac. HBCU football is still HBCU football. We have always played the same brand of football. That's right. We have always played the same brand of football. We have some of the greatest players to ever play the game of football that are currently in the Hall of Fame. The number one wide receiver came from where? Mississippi Valley State.
Valley.
Number one. No one is even close. And I remember watching this brother play, and he scorched the heck out of Jackson State. I mean, this brother was just freaking murder. We were
top running back in NFL history.
And that's right. We had the top running back in NFL history. And as far as I'm concerned, still is Walter Payton. But I remember watching Jerry Rice. They were 0-29 against us. You understand what I'm saying? 0-29 against Jackson State. And then here comes Jerry Rice. Joker. Anyway, but that's another story. But I'm serious. And
I think he just caught another touchdown against y'all.
He probably did. Because his I was about to say something else, but that brother blitzed us. And he was not that fast, but when he caught the ball, no one caught him.
Catch him.
And you ask ask Deion Sanders when he played against him, did he ever run him down from behind? And you know how fast he was.
Correct.
So when you talk to Coach Sanders, ask him if he ever ran down Jerry Rice and see what his answer would be.
Jerry Rice has what we call that neighborhood dog speed.
That's right.
You remember the neighborhood dog used to get behind? and you start and chase you up the street.
That's right. That's right.
I don't care how slow you was, you never got caught.
You never got caught.
Dog.
You never got caught.
Civil rights had neighborhood dog speed. He was not gonna get caught by that neighborhood dog.
Oh man, you brought up good memories there. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But you know what? Let's talk football.
Let's talk football.
Let's talk football here. So, let's go in order that they started. SIAC. And let me do some switching up here and pull this, do a quick share of the screen. And let's see if I can pull it up and show it to you, right? But we're going to talk about the SIAC, and we're going to talk about them first. And with them, let's make sure we can get this on the screen so all can see. Let's see here. And there we go.
While you pull that up, first of all, shout out to incoming Commissioner Anthony Holloman of the SIAC. Just got voted commissioner on yesterday. He will take over on September 1, replacing Gregory Moore, Attorney Gregory Moore, who's retiring after almost 14 years as commissioner of the SIAC. And fun fact there, Michael.
Yes.
Worked with Anthony Holloman, Dr. Holloman, when we were both at Tuskegee University.
Oh, really? Now, see, that's good information to know. Good info to know.
So, Dr. Holloman has had a tremendous career in HBCUs. He's a graduate of Johnson C. Smith University. He is currently the athletic director at Fort Valley State University and head of the athletics director council for the SIAC.
And as a matter of fact, I had a chance to talk.
You muted there, Mike.
Oh, I'm muted? Make sure I get myself unmuted here.
Still muted.
Hold on just 1 second. Get this done quickly as possible. Let me get this back up on the screen here.
While we wait on Michael Jefferson to
unmute,
get his computer screen correct and take himself off of mute.
Okay, there it is.
There you go. Try not to have too much dead air for you, bro.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And yeah, because I didn't even realize I had muted myself there as I was switching over and changing screens here. And let me get back to where I was. But go ahead with what you were saying about the SIAC and their new commissioner.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward. I think knowing Coach Holloman, as I call him, but Dr. Holloman down, and I think that the fans of the SIAC are going to be in store for a lot of stuff. One thing I know about Dr. Holloman, he knows how to go out and get money.
Yes.
And
that's what I've heard about.
It's I don't think it's going to be long before we're talking about Holloman in the same breath as we're talking about Dr. Charles McClellan.
Really?
Of the Swac. I think Holloman can have that impact on the Division II level like McClellan has had on the FCS / Division I level. Holloman is a go-getter. He's very creative. He knows how to go and get the funds that he needs to do what he wants to do. And on the flip side, he knows how to cut the fluff. and get down to where it's just meat and potatoes, no sides, just meat and potatoes. He's only gonna spend the money on where he needs to spend it once he goes out and gets it. I've seen him in action. I've seen the things that he has done. I believe he's been at about 4 or 5. He was at Jackson State at one point in time. He had a position at Jackson State. He's been at Tennessee State.
Yes.
Worked for Johnson C. Smith.
Well,
South Carolina State. And I'm just going off the top of my head. Of course, Tuskegee, and he's currently at Fort Valley. So,
but think about it.
Over the place.
Look at the job that he actually did at Fort Valley State. Now, some of the things I do understand is that Fort Valley State is having some small financial issues. But look at what he's done.
Let me cut you. All of the state schools in Georgia are having those issues. So let's not single out Fort Valley and say it is just Fort Valley. Albany State,
I agree.
Savannah State, and Fort Valley. That's why that if you go back 3-4 years ago, probably a little bit longer than that, that's why that forced merger with Darton College, the junior college, was put on Albany State. They just kept Albany State's name because it was the bigger of the two schools. But
good point.
It's throughout the Georgia system. I'm sorry.
No. That's a very good point to bring up, because if you look at and then just look at all of the HBCUs across all of the states and Mississippi, because at one time they were considering merging Jackson State, Alcorn, and Mississippi Valley to have one major HBCU. And that
was 3 satellite campuses
with the other 2 satellite campuses. That's right.
Yes.
Satellite campus in Lorman and a satellite campus in Itta Bena. And they actually they had some very serious conversations, and it was kind of close. It was real close at them doing it, but because the alumni for each of those institutions came together and said, no, this will not happen, and this is the reason why. We were able, all 3 campuses were able to survive, and look at them now. They're thriving.
Yeah. Well, they've had those discussions here in Georgia where I live at about those 3 schools, Savannah State, Fort Valley, Albany, Savannah. One of the reasons Savannah State was forced to come back down to the Division II level from the Division I level had a lot to do with finances. There were other factors, the tradition and things like that. But one of the major things were the finances.
That's right.
And financially, they could survive better at the Division II level, where you only need about a $4, $5, $6 million budget, than at the FCS level, where you're going to need in the B.L.O.C.K, you're going to need a minimum of twice that. But to really compete at the FCS level, you need a $25 to $30 million budget. So,
and doing all of that traveling, and that's one of the areas that really hurt a lot of schools.
That hurts, yes.
Because think about Bethune-Cookman traveling all the way up to Delaware
Washington, D.C., Delaware State.
That's a hefty travel.
Norfolk, Virginia.
Yes, that's a hefty travel. Whereas now they only have to travel as far as Jackson State. Well, that's still maybe a hefty travel, but at least they don't have to travel all the way to Prairie View.
Still a shorter bus ride to Jackson.
It is than Delaware State.
Than Delaware. Oh, and let's be real. They was flying to Delaware.
Yeah.
They was flying into Philadelphia, driving over to Dover, Delaware.
Yeah.
But right now, it's an easy flight. Drive to Jacksonville, fly from Jacksonville to Houston.
Yes.
Boom.
Yeah.
You got your Texas 2-step right there.
Yeah. Yet and still, that's a nice hefty fee you have to pay to get on that plane, but yet and still, they made it work. But they had to make some heavy decisions. And
but here's the thing: you have to do that maybe one time in the Swac, that flight to Houston, versus you got to fly to D.C., you got to fly to Delaware State.
That's true.
You got to fly to Morgan State.
That's true.
You got to fly to Norfolk, Virginia. Now all the Carolina trips are bus trips.
Yeah.
But those 4 up there, you got to fly to Maryland. You got to fly to Maryland.
Oh, that's right, for football, for basketball, basketball and every other sport.
You got to fly to Coppin. You got to fly up there, Coppin State. Yeah, now obviously you're always doing 2 when you're up there, but still, you had to fly up there 3, 4 times per sport, 3, 4, 5 times per sport, and we're not even going to talk about the Olympic sports because the Olympic sports was chartering it,
especially when it comes to baseball and softball.
Correct.
Yeah, and you know what? Very good point.
Volleyball.
Yes. So very good points that you brought up. And whereas you look at here, you look at the you look at the SIAC and their travel distance. Everybody is kind of in the same area except for Central State and Kentucky State.
Let me
for the most part.
I want you to go back and look at the first year Savannah State came to the SIAC.
Now, when Savannah State first came to the SIAC,
when they came back to the SIAC, if you go back and look at their schedule, Savannah State left the state of Georgia one time, home and away. You know where they went to on that one time?
I think they played one of the MEAC schools.
Columbia, South Carolina, to play Benedict. The only time they left the state of Georgia. And when you look and when you map that out, that trip to Columbia, South Carolina, that out-of-state trip, for them was closer than them traveling to Atlanta to play Morehouse or Clark.
This is true.
That is why Savannah State came back after when I talked to a few people.
The economics, it's all about financials.
It was pure economics. They did not leave the state of Georgia that year, except for one time in football.
And when you just look at the list here, all of these schools, traveling is not an issue.
Except
for Allen.
Kentucky State. No, Allen is in Columbia, South Carolina. They're across the street from Benedict. Literally across the street from Benedict. Central State.
And I guess I'm looking at for Kentucky State and Central.
Yeah, Kentucky State and Central State are a little bit of a challenge.
Because of their location. Now, Kentucky State traveling to Central is not a big deal.
No, not between them two, those two.
But at the same, everyone else, I mean, they're right in the same vicinity. You're talking about anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, maybe 5. But yet and still, it's not that big. It's not that great of a drive. It's not that great of a bus ride. But when you look at the records and you talk about what Savannah State did when they first came back, they were 6-0.
Yes. 5-1 in the second year.
5-1 the second year. And who did they lose to in the second year? Albany State.
Who they beat the first year.
Who they beat the first year. Now, had they been eligible for the conference title, they probably would have won the conference title. Why would they have won the conference title? Because they still had all of those FCS players, all of those scholarship players that they still had, and they could not backfill maybe not a good choice of words, but they could not get all of those scholarship players back into their coffers the following year. Correct. Because you can only have X number of scholarship players if you're an FCS school. You only have so many scholarship players if you're Division II, and the same thing if you're Division III.
They went from 63 max
down to 30
max. 36.
That's right.
But here's a fact. Mm-hmm. Savannah State only funded 30 of those 36.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, and they were still able to
compete
do what they did with 6 fewer scholarships.
And that's what a lot of these schools are doing. They're not able to fulfill all of the scholarship requirements, but they're able to do an exceptionally great job with what they have. I mean, look at now, don't get me wrong, you have the Central States of the world. They're still looking to come back, and they're still looking to do a much better job than what they've done in the past. They used to own the SIAC a few years ago. Well, several years ago, let me rephrase that. But now, over the past, gosh, help me out here, probably within the last 10 years, Central State has not been the Central State they were after bringing that football program back?
Central State, since they moved up into Division II and the SIAC, has not had success. The Central State that everyone knows and love, the Central State of Billy Joe and Rick Comedy,
yes,
died in the 90s. Died in the 90s when Billy Joe went to Florida A&M University, and I believe Comedy may have been there about another year or so before they shut the program down. Ironically, Comedy left there, ultimately wound up at
Jackson
Tuskegee.
State. What, Tuskegee? Then at Jackson
State. Yeah, he tried to stop at Norfolk in between and had the Norfolk job for 2 days, and then came back to Tuskegee.
Yes, and that made a big difference for what has transpired there, and even Tuskegee. If you look at their record, they're 2-4. They're looking at making a big switch.
But if you look at it, all right. First of all, let's stick with the West. Lane, and my computer died on me over here. Lane's football coach, Lane College football. He is believe it or not, he is the most seasoned coach on the West Side of the SIAC.
And as a matter of fact, I'm sorry, folks, I actually had a chart, but I took it down from what I had. I actually had a chart that showed how many years each coach was in each conference. And I apologize, I actually took that list down. But yes, you're right. He's the most seasoned coach because Kentucky State's coach is gone. Miles College is coming. Yeah. He's Central State. Oh, no, they have a new coach.
Everybody has a new coach on the West Side.
That's right.
But Lane.
Yeah.
Which is why I am leaning towards Lane to win the conference this year.
Really?
Yes. I am really leaning towards Lane. All right. Here you go.
I still say that Tuskegee has a better chance between Tuskegee and Miles.
Vira Brown is the coach at Lane. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, and I apologize. I do not have that sheet. And as far as the coaches, I'm at a loss. So
let me tell you why I'm leaning on Lane.
Okay.
Now I need you to go back into your Wayback Machine.
Okay.
Vira Brown, along with a few other coaches, took their job, but were not able to do anything because of COVID. Mm-hmm. He actually took the job pre-COVID. Then we had COVID.
Gotcha.
Lane didn't play football.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, he was, even though he's been on the job for 2 years, he was a first-year coach last year.
Right.
Of all of the coaches, and I'm talking in HBCU football, who took their job during COVID, he is the only coach to finish above 500.
Yeah, and if you go back and look at their record, they were 6-4 overall.
Yes.
3-3 in the conference.
Correct. Only coach, and I'm talking about FCS, Division II, NAIA, to finish above 500, having his first year coming out of COVID. Let me explain something to y'all. That means he had no spring practice, 2020. No summer workouts, 2020. Did not play football in 2020. No spring practice, 2021. No summer workouts, 2021.
But you won't give that credit to Coach Wilson, who was at Albany State?
Because he was there prior.
Got you.
He was there prior to COVID.
Got you.
So you got to think about when you coming in.
And that's for the SIC.
At least people,
I got you.
At least people knew who. At least you knew what the system was.
Yes,
Even though
yes,
you could
yes.
you could go out and you when you had opportunities to get together, you could get with people and work on it. I can't put my system in. I can't really teach you how to run my system if I can't get you to my office.
That's right.
If I can, you can only do so much on the Zoom. You need to see it, to feel it, to touch it.
Kentucky State, they were on the rise because of their coach. They had Coach Jackson. And
but he was there
prior. And he put in their system, and he was one game away. If they had defeated Miles College, they would have been in the championship game against Albany State. Savannah State, their system was already in place. And based upon everything that Morehouse.
So why do I say watch out for Lane? Now he's had a full off season. He had spring practice 2022.
Yeah.
He had summer workouts 2022.
But now if you take
he's going into fall camp. He's had so last year he was able to do it, and it was probably a lot of mixing and matching and just kind of getting by with what you can because you couldn't put everything in because you really haven't had that time.
Right.
Now you've had a full year to really get the nuts and the bolts of it, and you were already successful by piecemealing it last year. Watch out for the Lane Dragon.
But now let's take a look at what the projections are for 2022. But before we get there, we'll see what happened last year in terms of who won the SIAC. And that, of course, was Albany State. They really just took it to Miles College. But, of course, Albany State, they were just a juggernaut. They had the number one defense.
What, six touchdowns all season?
All season.
Yes. On defense? Something ridiculous like that.
I mean, it was... And
less than a touchdown a game.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, Coach Wilson, he's currently at Morgan State. We'll get there. And he said, and when I said, well, Coach, how long do you think it'll take before you get to the conference championship game? He said, isn't there going to be a championship winner for this year? I said, yes, sir. We expect to be the champs this year. I said, yes, sir. And he said it with the confidence, and his players, when they looked, because he said it, didn't flinch. They were like, yeah. And they expect to win. Why? Because that's the kind of coach they have. And this is the predicted outcome. And as you can see, I have last year's finish and the preseason ranking. And Benedict is expected to be second. And I have to respect what you're saying about Lane because this is his second year. And I think a lot of people are still looking at what Lane has done in the past. Correct. And not even and they're not giving any type of respect to Lane at all. Now, in terms of Savannah State is currently ranked in third place. And I'm hearing a lot of things about Savannah State. I think Savannah State will be fortunate to finish above Edward Waters this year because of a lot of things I'm hearing about Savannah State and their coaches leaving. A lot of the players are not there. They're having to recruit the recruits that are there.
Last minute
recruiting. So I'm just hoping that Savannah State does end up where the prognosticators are saying that they will end up. But based upon everything I'm hearing, I don't see it. I just don't see it. Another team that's not up there, Kentucky State. Where did Kentucky State finish? Kentucky State finished second behind Miles College. And where is Miles College?
Got the East. But you just got the East up right now. You don't have the West up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say before you go off this East, go back. Uh-huh. I want you to look at the team that's predicted to finish number 7.
Yes.
Clark Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, Clark Atlanta just hired Willie Slater as their coach. former coach at Tuskegee University.
That's right. That's right.
Let me put this into perspective.
I know where you're going. Go ahead.
The all-time winningest coach at Tuskegee University is Cleve Abbott, whom the stadium is named after.
I know where you're going.
The number 2 all-time winningest coach at Tuskegee is Willie Slater. So, now, yes, the last 3 years of the Slater era were not good on the football field. 5-5 seasons followed by a 3-7 campaign.
But
okay, now during those last 3 years, Willie Slater dubbed as the head coach and athletic director at Tuskegee. The way Willie Slater has always coached football, he has always been the play caller, the offensive coordinator.
Totally focused.
Yeah, he's the head coach, offensive coordinator. And a little known fact is he did not have a quarterback coach the last 2 years that he coached football. He also took on the role of the quarterback coach. So you're talking about he's the athletic director, he's the head football coach, he's the offensive coordinator, and he's the quarterback coach. And you're like, how can he be the quarterback coach? Willie Slater was a damn good quarterback.
Yes, he was.
Willie Slater has records at North Alabama. At West Alabama. He played at West Alabama. He still has records at West Alabama. If you can go look that up, it was called Livingston College then, not Livingstone, Livingston.
Yeah, Livingston.
So
and see,
I
still make mistakes and call them Livingston. So I just have to admit that I still make mistakes and call them Livingston, and they're not.
But my point is, Willie Slater has not forgotten how to coach football the last 3 years. Willie Slater has not forgotten how to recruit the last 3 years. Willie Slater had too many irons in the fire and was handcuffed with trying to use those irons that it was going to be tough to succeed. So now the fact that he only has to coach football, and Clark Atlanta has actually, and full disclosure, Tuskegee is one of my alma maters. Clark Atlanta has given him everything he ever wanted at Tuskegee, but could not get at Tuskegee.
Yeah.
What? And you were there at Media Day. Have his players not bought into the Willie Slater Kool-Aid?
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
They drinking it all up.
I give them 2 years. This year they're going
to finish second this year.
Really?
Yes, I got them finish second in the East this year.
I say give them 2 years. I actually predict that they would probably finish about 4th or 5th. I don't see them finishing 6th because of his pedigree. Right. But I can see, because of what he brings to the table, and he can bring more out of a player. Seasoned head coaches can bring more out of a player than most coaches with all of the analytics and everything behind them, because he knows how to coach, and he can see things that most other coaches can't. So I can say this year that they're going to finish middle of the pack, and because I'm sorry, I just don't see Savannah State. I'm sorry, I just can't see Savannah State finishing that high this year. I just can't. You might call me crazy. I had a chance to see Benedict play against Kentucky State. They
had the best quarterback in the conference.
Dude, they didn't give up when they played Kentucky State. Now Kentucky State, they ran the ball down your throat. Don't get me wrong, but and not only that, with Kentucky State, they played with their 4th string quarterback, and they were still able to defeat Benedict College in the Circle City Classic game. But Benedict, everything that I saw with Benedict, and they had a very young team, I can see that second place. I see what you're saying though about Clark Atlanta, but I don't see Savannah State finishing in third place. Clark Atlanta, I'll give you that, but Benedict, I don't think anyone will be able to take out Albany State. I really don't.
Not this year.
I just cannot see it. And then as we go to the West, tell me who in the West. Say again.
Ahead.
Tell me who in the West. I understand what you feel about Lane because Lane is predicted to finish second place. But tell me who in the West can beat him. No one.
I've got Lane, Tuskegee, Miles. That's my top three, West.
I can see that because the bottom 4 and 5, yes, I can see that. And Kentucky State will be fortunate to be fourth.
Yeah. Oh, I think Central with their coach, another former NFL player who's coaching, and I believe there's two former NFL players. Miles, new coach, Central State's new coach have NFL pedigrees.
I believe you're correct. Like I said, I apologize because I don't have my list pulled up as I did previously. But I believe that you're correct because I know that at the moment, as far as I know, KSU does not.
The athletic director took over
For KSU.
Yes.
And he does have some coaching experience, but at the same time, he's looking for a head coach.
Yes. He's going to take it. He's going to do it for a year.
Yeah. He's looking for a head coach, and they have some of the previous coaches there. They have some of the good players that are still there, but we'll see that first game.
Correct.
Let's just say that we'll see that first game. Now, as we continue to move on, of course, they had some players of the year that they brought up and that they mentioned. A player from Albany State, Deontay, and then of course there you have preseason defensive player of the year. You have for Lane College, Andrew Farmer. But let's take a look at the CIAA. This was the second media day.
Correct.
And for the second media day, who did you have? Bowie State played Fayetteville State. Bowie State had won 2 championships in a row prior to this game, making this number 3. Fayetteville State, this was their 4th trip in a row to the championship game. But of course, 3 of them were against Bowie State. So
and they're 0 for 4.
And they're 0 for 4. So hopefully this year, since Bowie State has a brand new coach, maybe. But let's take a look at how they finished and the predicted order of finish. And as you can see, Bowie State finished 7-0. Fayetteville State finished 7-0. Went through each of their divisions, hot knife through butter. Now, don't get me wrong, they had some trouble with a couple of schools. Now, the school that I'm looking at is Shaw. That coach, I have watched, and as a matter of fact, I had a chance to talk to the coach from Fayetteville State and Shaw, and the coach from Fayetteville State indicated that they came into the conference at the same time. And when they came into the conference at the same time, he said they played in a torrential downpour their first year. And Fayetteville State won by a score of 7-6.
I remember that. I remember that.
Wow. And see, I don't remember that game. And he said because they won that game, he said Shaw easily could have won it, but because they won that game, that lifted them to where they currently are, where they, being Fayetteville State, currently are, 7-0. But Shaw has slowly but surely, progressively moved up the ladder. And I'm expecting Shaw to eventually, of course, He doesn't want me to say this, but I can see Shaw winning that division this year. I might be wrong, but that's the team that I'm saying may be the biggest surprise in this conference, not just the division, but I'm saying in the conference. Now, Shawan, with their coach, that's a strong possibility as well in the Northern Division.
I got one in the North for you.
Who is that?
VUU. In the 3 years, Dr. Alvin Parker has been the head coach at Virginia Union.
Mm-hmm.
They are 16-5.
I saw that.
In the CIAA.
Yes, I have
3
that.
of those 5 are to Bowie State.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I even have it listed. And as you can see, I have they were ranked 25th in the nation, 11-3, 15-5 for the last 3 years.
But 3 of those 5 are to the team that's listed above them.
Bowie State.
Correct.
And if not for Bowie State, a lot of other teams would have a lot of other opportunities.
Yes.
And see, I also had this list. This is the preseason list. Now previously, of course, you can see how they're ranked in the division. And it's pretty much no difference in the Northern Division, pretty much no difference in the South. But when you take a look at the overall predicted order of finish, now you got a little bit of shuffling around. Now, here you are. VUU is considered third. Would you keep them in third place, or would you put them above Fayetteville State?
You have to keep them in third place in theory, because your 1-2 should be one from the North, one from the South. So I'm just being very philosophical when I'm saying that. I think VUU, a lot of times in these conferences like this, the top 2 teams happen to play on the same side of the conference. But which is why sometimes you have dog championship games.
Yes,
because number 1 is already beat number 2.
Yeah.
So you really got to have one playing 3, or sometimes one playing 4 for a conference championship game. So, and that's no disrespect to Fayetteville State, but I think Virginia Union for the last couple of years has been the second best team in that conference.
And as a matter of fact,
they play on the same side as Bowie State,
and they've given Bowie State fits.
Yes,
and that's why I say, as far as Shaw ended up having a few extra turnovers in the game against Fayetteville State. Otherwise, they would have had a better shot at winning a game. But
watch Elizabeth City. They predicted to finish in the bottom half.
Mm-hmm.
It was something about the Kool-Aid that they sold to me at the media day that has me believing that Elizabeth City is going to ruffle some feathers this year.
And you know what, AD? I agree with you. Because I had a chance to speak with the coach and the players, and I got that same vibe about Johnson C. Smith. Can't remember. I cannot put my finger on it. I cannot remember right now. I forgot to.
Maurice Flowers just took back over at Johnson C. Smith, his alma mater.
But it was something. It was just something in the conversation about him, because once you put in your philosophy and those players are able to transfer the philosophy from the coach onto the field, it was just something about the confidence in how those players talked and how the coach spoke. Now, granted, every coach, regardless if they're 0-75, they feel that this is the year. Yeah, but it was just something different.
Hey, Maurice Flowers. Brother, I love you, but I'm still mad about that 30-0 whooping that you put on Tuskegee last year in the Red Tails Classic. You cool with me otherwise, bro, but you still owe me that one, man. I just want you to know that.
So you sound like me now. Yeah, I love you until you play Jackson State. So when you because see, I'm still bitter when Kentucky State
beat
Jackson State in the Circle City Classic. And
you and Charles Bishop.
Look, and I tell you what, the game wasn't as close as the score indicated. It was not. It was not. And I have to digress for about 30 seconds. That option, they ran the. I'm live, aren't I? They ran the daggum ball up and down the field. 9 yards, 11 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards. They passed the ball 4 times in the game. The entire game.
4.
They didn't complete all. They didn't complete all 4.
Oh, that wasn't y'all. That wasn't y'all. They did that against.
No, they did complete all 4 against another team. And
they went 4 for 4.
And they went 4 for 4. Only 4. Don't piss me off no more, AD. Come on. but I mean,
while we on the Kentucky State bandwagon,
God,
did you realize last year against Edward Waters, they had a perfect game?
Yes.
Offense.
Yes.
10 possessions.
10 scores.
10 touchdowns. Not 10 scores.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize for those who know me. When I say scores, that means touchdowns.
Correct.
The
only time they did not score a touchdown, Michael Jefferson, was when they took a kneel down to go in the half.
Yeah. And I think it was because they had mercy on him. But the Coach Jackson, he believes like me, I'm a coach. When you got them down, you keep them down. Because if you give them a window of hope, they can come back and beat you.
Kick them in the throat.
You kick them in the throat, you take the wind out of them, and you keep the wind out of them until it's over. Then, okay, I'm sorry, let me help you up. It's over now. It's done. And so I'll never forget that game. I didn't even I listened to it, and it was just bad of a beating just listening to the game as it was being there, and because Kentucky, and that was Coach Jackson's second year with his team in the system.
Yes,
and just imagine if he were there this year. There would be no way I would give Miles College a chance on God's green earth to win that conference, that division for the SIAC to win the West. There would be no way I would say Miles College would win. But he's no longer there. They have a new head coach. Now he has to put in his system for Kentucky State. I know we're on the CIAA, but yet and still, I just don't see it. Yeah. But going back to the CIAA, and we're talking about how this looks. The team that we're looking at, I'm saying Shaw is going to be that team, and you're saying, and I have to agree with you, Virginia Union, but Johnson C. Smith might be the sleeper. And you know what? I did not ask you. Let me go back. So you're saying Johnson C. Smith could be the sleeper for the CIAA, correct?
Either them in the South, Elizabeth City in the North.
Okay. So going back to the SIAC, who do you perceive to be the sleeper for the SIAC?
On the east side, just based on record, it's going to be Clark Atlanta. Just based on where they finished at last year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is tough in the West. Can you really call Tuskegee a sleeper when it's Tuskegee? But if you base it on the last 3 years,
when you base it on the last 3 years, you could say that.
A sleeper.
Yeah,
but it's Tuskegee.
Yeah, but you can say that because. Okay, let me go to the Swac conference. Historically, and I know what you're saying because historically, Tuskegee has been that team.
They're the winningest HBCU of all time, 699 account.
Understand, but historically, Jackson State historically was that team. Then all of a sudden, they went from being the team where they won 28 SWAC games in a row No one could come close to them when they had Coach W.C. Gordon there.
Yes.
And then, of course, and then we look at Grambling.
On the other side.
On the other
Same
side.
Thing.
Same thing.
Same.
Then I can't remember the coach before Coach Odom at Southern.
Pete Richardson.
Thank you. Coach Richardson. Same thing with Southern. Same thing with Alcorn. You had those historical schools. Then all of a sudden they went through that lull. And now with Tuskegee, you have to look at them as to say, well, now they're sleepers because, yeah, that was then. When you look at the 40s, 50s, and 60s, I need Luke Williams on here now. When you look at, when you go back to then, Prairie View was the HBCU football team, football program, up until 1970. 71 or 1972, I can't remember. I went back and I was reading the history book.
Maybe FAMU.
Yeah, but Prairie View
Jake Gaither.
Jake Gaither. They were beating the hell out of everybody though. Prairie View and Florida A&M. But Prairie View was the team. And then all of a sudden in 70, 72, 73.
Grambling kind of took over. Eddie Robinson started.
Coach Rob.
Ascending.
Yes. And then you didn't hear anything from Prairie View until 90
what was
and
Prairie View? 0 for 90, 0 for 89.
Oh, they were 0 for a lot.
in the late 80s and early 90s.
Late 80s and early 90s, you had that team on your schedule, guaranteed win, almost guaranteed. It was like
they were the
me.
Virginia Lynchburg. It was like the Virginia Lynchburg of
college football.
Yes,
and so these are things that I look at as far as sleepers. Now, as we move forward. And we've talked about the CIAA. Now let's move to the Swac. And well, before we go to the Swac, you talk about the hires and the coaches and where they are today. Look at all of the new hires that you have. And then when you look at the new hires, look at how many of the coaches only have 1 or 2 years. Now you talk about, look. So coach at Fayetteville State. Shaw. He's the guy that has more seniority. He's the guy. Fayetteville State. Both of those guys. Winston-Salem. He's the one that has come in. And he's been interim coach for the last 2 seasons. But it's just going to be kind of interesting to see how these coaches fall and what they're going to bring to each school. And I mean, look at Coach Hayes, 32-19 overall, 26-7 in conference play. Just murder. But don't get me wrong, what you said about Coach Parker, 15-5. 11-3 in conference play. And who did they lose to? Bowie State. Bowie State. But now, let's take a look at the Swac conference. And this is what you're looking at when you talk about the Swac conference in terms of coaches. Now, in the East, when you look at the Swac conference, they have a little bit of longevity at least. A little bit of longevity. Coach Prime, he's the youngest cat that's out there. He's in his 3rd season if you include spring. But then when you look at...
You got one correction.
What you got? Talk to me.
E-Rob, Alabama State, 1st season. Eddie Robinson. Brian Jenkins was let go in the spring.
Yes, he was. I caught 2 mistakes, and that was another one. So thank you very much. Because as a matter of fact, I was supposed to have made that change, and I did not. Thank you very much. And
charges to your head, not your heart.
Yes, because I caught that mistake, and I said, "Oh damn it! I'm sorry. Oh doggone it! I need I need to make that change, and I did not make that change. So I apologize to everyone out there because that is Coach Rob. That's at Alabama State, and as a matter of fact, we had a good conversation with Alabama State in terms with Coach Rob in regards to how they feel, and actually the pressure is on Alabama State for the MEAC Swac Challenge. What do you think about that?
Oh, he put it out there on the table during the press conference. We need to bring the trophy back to its rightful place. He went and put all the pressure
on Alabama State
and on himself.
Yeah.
And the MEAC can sit back and be quiet because they have the pedigree.
How many have they won? 11 and 4.
11-4, 5 out of 6 Celebration Bowls, and were it not for a 15-yard penalty and a bad snap, they would be 6-6 in the Celebration Bowl. Grambling beat Central in
10-9
Celebration Bowl too.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, that was 10-9. Yeah. I remember that game because Central had walked they had walked that ball down the field against Grambling.
Yeah.
And they should have won it. But it should have been 12-10. Everyone saw that. Yeah, it's a done deal. Once they kick this, yeah.
Question, Michael.
Yes.
Would the MEAC ever send a representative to the Celebration Bowl that does not have the name Carolina in their name?
Yes.
Will it be this year?
If not this year, it will be next year.
And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, North Carolina A&T went to 4.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina Central went to 1.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina State went to 1. Everybody has had the name Carolina somewhere in the name. Yes.
And each of those Carolina teams won except for Central.
Yes.
And they only lost by 1 point.
Correct.
On a last-second field goal, which hence going back to what AD is saying. They could and should rightfully be 6-0.
Yes.
And as much as I hate to say it, they rightfully should be 6-0 in the Celebration Bowl. And if not this year, it'll be next year. And that team that I can see is going to be Norfolk State. But Norfolk State, you don't think so? Come on, Doc. You really don't think?
Go to Baltimore. That's the state that I think is going to get there. That's the state school. Morgan State, I think, is going to be there within the next 2 to 3 years.
You know what, Doc? Okay. And I'll tell you why I don't like you right now. I'm having to agree with you. I'm not supposed to be agreeing with you. I'm not supposed to be agreeing with you.
Doesn't make for a good podcast.
No, it doesn't. But I tell you why I have to agree with you. Because I've had the chance to Coach Wilson has been on this show. And I had a chance to speak to Coach Wilson off camera. Had Coach Wilson on camera. Now, who's Coach Wilson? Coach Wilson was the head coach for Bowie State. Bowie State had they had won 3 in a row, 3 championships in a row, defeating Fayetteville State, and they did kind of okay in the playoffs.
Kind of okay. They got to the regional finals one year. Got to the regional semifinals another year, and rightfully so. They should have been the number 1 seed
this year.
Last year.
Last year.
Yes.
And it had not been for that doggone Valdosta State. That's been every HBCU school's thorn, is getting past Valdosta State. And that's why I have to agree with what you're saying with Morgan State. And because he has the confidence level to say, look, is there going to be a championship game this year? I expect to be in it this year.
Wait, he won't be there this year.
I don't agree. I agree with that. He won't be there this year. But doggone it, he in the next 2 to 3 years.
Give him a recruiting cycle.
It's going to be scary for what Morgan
David
State's going to
Wilson
put on the
will
table.
put a lock on Baltimore,
It's going to be ugly.
Maryland, Virginia. He's going to put a lock on that area.
Now I say,
HBCU talent.
now this
Even
that's
up into Jersey.
now see. Ooh, really? You
Yeah,
think
he's going to pull all that talent into Baltimore.
Oh, wow. Wow. That says a lot. That says a heck of a lot. Because, see, that's why I was giving Coach Odoms, the old coach that used to be at Southern University, but now is at Norfolk State. That's why I was saying if not this year, then next year, Norfolk State would be in the championship. Because I'll tell you what, coach from oh gosh, and I should be going over to the MEAC because we've just kind of thrown the Swac over to the side.
The Swac get enough love, man.
Yeah, the Swac is really getting enough love. I mean, here you are, you have Jackson State with Coach Fine.
Sleeper team, Bethune-Cookman on the east side, Texas Southern on the west side. Those are my two sleepers.
I have to give it the sleeper teams. I have to give it to Alabama State this year because I don't see A&M being a sleeper. You can't say Florida A&M and Jackson State. They are so far beyond sleepers. It's unreal. But Bethune.
I'm gonna tell you why I'm picking. Let me tell you why I'm picking Bethune. Bethune, 2 years away from football due to COVID.
Yeah.
2 complete years away from football due to COVID.
Yeah.
When they finally started figuring it out, what did they do? Ask the Braves. Ask those people in Lawrence, Mississippi, what happened when Bethune figured it out last year.
Yeah.
Upset the knock.
And this was after they lost the Valley.
Yeah. Knocked Alcorn out of the race.
Yeah.
Now, you know my first degree is from Florida A&M University, correct? Ask any graduate of Florida A&M University what will happen to you when Bethune gets into the football business. We found out for 9 years in a row what can happen to you when hey, Wildcats, let's go. I know. I know. So I think Bethune will be back into the football business this year.
Yeah.
Finally, Coach Sims will get back into the football business.
Yeah.
He's going to be, and y'all may pull my alumni card for saying this, right? Bethune will be in the race the first weekend in November, along with Jackson State and Florida A&M.
But if whoever wins that game between Jackson State and Florida A&M, I'm sorry, whoever loses the game between Jackson State and Florida A&M is out of the race.
No.
You don't think so?
This is what I got. Bold prediction. Go ahead and push. Make sure you got the record button on this one.
Oh, it's there.
Jackson State will beat Florida A&M. See, now I can't even go to alumni convention anymore because I just said that. Well, Jackson State will beat Florida A&M in the OBC.
Okay.
Jackson State will lose to Bethune and Alcorn. Given Florida A&M's only loss will be to Jackson State.
Now, the reason why, let's see.
Those are all road games for Jackson State.
Yes, Jackson State has to go on the road to Alcorn.
They finished with 3 in a row.
Yes.
On the road this year.
They do have to play Alcorn in Lorman. One way in, one way out. And I tell you, when they go into that pit, that's
why I've got Florida A&M actually winning the East despite losing the OBC. Which also is why I say Bethune will be in the race, because when they upset Jackson State, it's going to come down to the Florida Classic.
It's going to come down to the Florida Classic, which Florida A&M will more than likely beat Bethune, because when was the last? Well,
they better be. Now, look, we lost 9 years in a row. We won for the first time.
That's what I was about to say. Bethune has been beating you guys pretty handily, and as a matter of fact, my son is a graduate.
And they haven't even beat us They haven't even beaten us like we stole something. We just found a way to found a way to lose the game.
Yeah.
Most of those years.
Yes, you did, and I remember those games.
Bethune. Now there were a couple of times Bethune had just had a better team than us.
Yeah.
But in the early part of Willie Center was there, Bethune did not have a better team than FAMU. FAMU will find a way to just lose the doggone game.
That's the way Jackson State used to be.
The last year before COVID, FAMU was up. They had the lead.
I remember that.
Have you been to the Have you been to
No, I haven't.
Camping World Stadium? Okay.
No, I haven't.
True story. Brian and I, we're at Camping World Stadium. Florida A&M has the game wrapped up. All they have to do is just basically get a first down. Game is over, right?
Wow.
So we're in the press box. So we take the elevator down so we get the field level for the after
for the end of the game, yeah.
And everything.
Yeah.
We're on the elevator. We hear this big roar. We get off the elevator. Bethune has the lead. We've thrown the interception. Why
would you throw the ball?
Why we're throwing the ball? Why Ryan Stanley was throwing the ball? I don't know.
Yeah.
Ryan Stanley has thrown a pick six.
Yeah.
By the time we get off the elevator.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know why I can.
Not only did it happen, but because we're on the elevator, we didn't even get to see it.
Which means you double pissed.
Because yes.
So now you know. Well, you've had the same feeling that I've had several years in a row when Jackson State played Tennessee State, and also in some cases when Jackson State played Southern. These
they find a way to lose,
and they find a way to lose. Oh my gosh, it's almost like, and I have water here. It's almost like
you get defeat from the jaws of victory.
Here you go. I think you need this more than I do.
Yes.
Here you are. And here we are as alums. We're like, you know what? And because here we are in the last couple of minutes, last 2-3 minutes of the game, we're holding our breath because, okay, are they going to find a way to lose this game?
All we need is a first down. All we need is a first down.
Will they find a way to lose this game?
Yes, they did.
So I can commiserate with you. I know how you feel. I know how you feel. Because, and I'll tell you another reason. The game against Bethune-Cookman in the MEAC Swac Challenge, Jackson State gave up the ball 3 or 4 turnovers. They had 3 or 4 turnovers. One, the quarterback was going in for a touchdown, fumbled the ball. A lot of people still feel that he was down.
I was there. I remember that.
And still feel that he was down. Guy stripped the ball, picked it up.
Scoop six.
Scoop 6. Ran it in. The score was 37-15. The turnovers that Jackson State made, if they had not, that one play right there caused the game. Because not only that, but Jackson State, right after that, you could tell that they were demoralized. And Bethune scored another one because then they had all the momentum on their side, and they ended up scoring. Bethune ended up scoring again, but Jackson State, literally, as far as I was concerned, even though they had had a rough season the last 2 years, losing to Kentucky State, but yet and still, they had a better team, and they were playing. But
hey, Michael.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, you know what I remember about that MEAC Swac challenge that you're talking about?
What's that?
The world's stupidest penalty I've ever seen in my life.
Wait a minute. Which one was that?
That was the one on the mascot.
Oh, yes. Yes. You know what? I totally forgot about that. But
I've still got that clip on my computer somewhere.
But it's like, why the hell would you come out there in the first place? But I agree with that.
We have
but
15-yard unsportsmanlike against the mascot, and he has been ejected.
But guess what? That's the SWAC. I don't even know who the refs were in that game. But see, that's something that SWAC referees would do. And see, that's another story about how we feel about the SWAC referees. Now, since you are, since FAM is in the SWAC, you will be another person that will love to hate the SWAC referees. Now, they have gotten better. I will say, I will give them this. Since they are now seen more on ESPN, they have gotten immensely better. Or should I say, since Dr. McClellan when he got into his second term, his second year, I think he got rid of a lot of those refs because it was almost hilarious how bad some of the refs were. And I'm sorry, I may not get accepted to a lot of games anymore. I'm just telling the doggone truth.
Well, you have to have a good officiating program, and you got to have guys who are not called a high school game on Friday night,
and then coming in
and call it a
college game,
a collegiate game at 2:00 on Saturday afternoon.
Yes, it just doesn't work.
You got to have these people who understand, are dedicated to the collegiate game, and there's nothing wrong with high school referees, but with the rule differences as they are between the two,
you have to keep your mind sharp.
It's apples and oranges.
Yes,
there are totally separate rules.
Yeah,
I've worked the chain game at a collegiate game, and I refereed high school football. So just me going from refereeing high school football on a Friday night to being in charge of the chain crew.
Yes.
On a Saturday, and just some of the small rule differences that I had to deal with, and on the chain game.
Yes.
And y'all got all these different signals and stuff like that. You can't do both. You got to pick one or the other.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And now let's take a look here, a real quick look at the predicted order of finish for the SWAC. And here you are now. I didn't get a chance to get just complete 1 to 12 list, but at least I was able to get it broken down in the division. And as you can see, they have Bethune in 5th, switching places with Valley, whereas Valley, as you can see, finished 5th in the conference, and Texas Southern in the West finished in 6th place, whereas Arkansas Pine Bluff is in 5th. But the team, more than any other team in either division, that has gotten more love than anyone is Southern. And the reason why is because of Coach Dooley.
Coach.
Yeah. Now, while Coach Dooley was at Prairie View, he never lost to Grambling. Never lost to Grambling while he was coaching at Prairie View. And so the one thing that he said coming into Southern, I'll never lose to Grambling. But you have to make sure you have the players. I can easily say for Southern University, I don't know where they get these cornbread eating jokers from, but they know they can play some football. And the game against Jackson State, and the reason why I keep pointing out Jackson State, and I'll also point out FAM, is because Southern played Jackson State to the very end in Baton Rouge. And had it not been for a late fourth quarter touchdown that Shador threw, they would have lost. They would have lost that game in Southern, in Baton Rouge. That's a place no one in the SWAC likes to go. No one. You hear me? No one. Heck, I hated to go there in the band, and I know we had protection, but yet and still, Baton Rouge is a different place. So
it is.
Yeah, so if you've never been, have you ever been?
They put the roots on you. Yes, I've been to Baton Rouge a couple of times. Never to a game, but I've been to Baton Rouge. I've been on Southern's campus, but I haven't been there for a game.
Yeah, go to a game. You have to go to a game, Doc.
I will.
It's a different world. Yeah, dude, it's a different world. I don't care if you got when Jackson State rolls in there with the boom. Oh, dude, it's a different world. Now we come in and we take over Baton Rouge. When Southern comes to Jackson, Southern takes over Jackson State. But it's, I understand your FAM. You're used to FAM. You're used to A&T. You're used to Central. You're used to Bethune. But to see, as far as I'm concerned, I've had a chance to march against quite a few of the bands, of the HBCU bands that we talk about, except for FAM. As far as I'm concerned, if you really want to go to a game that has the two best HBCU bands in all of the land, you need to be at the Jackson State Southern game in Jackson, Mississippi this year.
That's the Boombox Classic.
That is the Boombox Classic. And Jackson State and Southern, they play their homecoming games on the same day. But the following week, they will be in Jackson, Mississippi. And the hotel rooms are already sold out. They were sold out back in April, maybe May. So you'll have to get you'll have to either get a hotel room from somewhere else, maybe Baton Rouge, maybe Memphis. Now, that stadium will hold 60,000 easy, yes, without a problem. Especially now, and especially when Coach Dooley comes rolling in there with Southern. And don't make a mistake and have both Jackson State and Southern
in the race
rolling in there undefeated. They can be 0 and whatever. Because of the Boombox Classic, the stadium will get around about 40,000. But if each of those teams are undefeated and the bands are rocking, you may not be able to get a parking spot in Jackson. And I'm not saying it because it's Jackson State. I'm just saying because all of Baton Rouge will come up for that game. I'm just saying. And then you're going to have all of the people from Jackson.
Straight up 55.
Straight up 55. So in all of HBCU, I know you have A&T and Central, Bethune and FAM, Graham and Southern, Jackson and Alcorn, Alabama A&M
and Alabama State.
And you have those games. You have Miles and Tuskegee. I understand all of those games. Understand the history. Understand everything. But when you want to see two bands go at it, and there's a football game too. But when you want to see the two major black college bands go at it, that is the one game. Bar none. Bar none. Even Jackson State, Tennessee State. Texas Southern Prairie View. Bar none. That is the game that everyone needs to see. Because even at the Bayou Classic, when Southern and Grambling they play, they have a set night where they go tooth and nail at each other. I know I've spent a long time on this, but it's just something that you really have to see and you really have to experience. In my freshman year, and I'll say this and move on to the MEAC. My freshman year, we got in the stadium, sat down, no problems. Southern hit us, plastered us to the back of the seats. My freshman year. The next year, it stormed on us when we rolled into Southern. We plastered them to the back of their seats. So, but it's just something that's just a sport within itself. But going back here, and we've already talked about the sleepers in the Swac conference. So let's move on to the last conference, because once you get me talking about the bands, I could be here for another 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. But we're going to move.
When I got to go to work in the morning.
Yeah, and likewise, because I have to get up. And as a matter of fact, I saw the gig that I'm working on. I have to be there at 8 in the morning to get there, and I still have to do some work. And last year, as you can see, for the SWAC championship game, Jackson State defeated Prairie View 27-10. But as we take a look at the MEAC conference, this is how they finished up last year, and this is what we've been talking about. Morgan State finished 1-4, 2-9 overall. South Carolina State, 5-0. North Carolina Central. And as a matter of fact, Coach Oliver was telling Coach Pugh, we should have won. And he was telling him, we're going to get you this year, being 2022. And so they're expecting big things to happen in that particular game for what's going to happen between these two. Norfolk State lost and help me out here, their last 2 games. They were in the conference race. Last 3 games. They lost
to Central,
yes.
South Carolina State, and I can't remember who the third one was.
I can't remember if it was it may have been Del State.
I think it may have been Del State.
Yeah. Norfolk State was in it until those last 3 games. And then guess what happened?
The bottom fell out.
The bottom fell out. But this year, and we're going to go ahead and wrap because I didn't realize what time it was.
Yes.
But with this, my sleeper for this. Oh, and let's go and take a look and see what happened here with the Celebration Bowl. And these are some of the things that we've been talking about with them. Celebration Bowl, 27-10 against Jackson State. The MEAC, 11-4 all time in the MEAC Swac Challenge. And when we take a look, 19 years, Coach Pugh.
Coach Pugh has more years than all the other ones combined.
Yeah, just add them up. I mean, can't even touch it. Players love him. Not even close. But here we go. This is the projected order of finish. Now, who do you think is a sleeper here?
Can you really say there's a sleeper in a 16 conference?
Yes.
Okay, let me go through a couple of things and then I'll come up with the sleeper for you.
Yeah.
Okay, number 1, South Carolina State will not go undefeated in this conference this year.
Now, I have to agree with that. I have to agree with that this year.
Okay, that's number 1. Mm-hmm. Number two, I do have Central. I have South Carolina State winning it because I think they'll beat the head-to-head against Central. Central's only loss will be to South Carolina State.
South Carolina State.
This is what's going to happen. And you know Michael Jefferson, you've probably never heard this word. This is a BCSN word that I have invented. MEAC-ish.
Okay.
MEAC-ish. You know what that means?
Talk to me.
Stuff that only happens. Stuff that happens only happens in the MEAC.
Okay.
It's the most MEAC-ish thing. You remember when the MEAC had like 4 or 5 teams split for the football championship?
Yes, I do.
That's what I mean when I say MEAC. That happens nowhere else but in the MEAC.
Yeah, you're right.
Then the following year, they had 3 teams finish first and like 2 additional teams finish
second, third, fourth or fifth.
The next level.
Yeah.
Right. Only in the MEAC.
Yeah.
So when I say MEAC-ish, that's what MEAC-ish means. Okay? I had to put that in context before I say this.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen. South Carolina State will beat Central.
Okay.
That will be Central's only loss.
Okay.
South Carolina State will lose to Norfolk State for their only loss. You'll have 3 teams finish 4-1. Oh, by the way, and in that scenario, Central beats Norfolk State. So you'll have 3 teams finish 4-1, which means you'll have 3 teams finish 1-4.
Really?
The most MEAC-ish thing that can happen. A 3-way tie for first and a 3-way tie for last. Can't you see?
I can't agree with that.
Can you see it happening? But if it happened anywhere, could you see it happening in the MEAC?
I can see it happening in the MEAC, all because they don't have a championship game. I can see it happening, but I don't see it happening this year.
Okay.
Because if South Carolina State doesn't win it this year, I will have to give it to Central. Because Central is just knocking on that doggone door again.
But I think there's so much parity out of that there's going to be a loss, and I think Norfolk
is there.
Will be on the come up, which is why I say all three of those teams could go 4-1. I think they will beat each other.
Because see, I'm saying that Norfolk State this year will win the conference. That's my team. And you don't you don't say this year. So you're saying Central?
Yeah, I'm going with Central and South Carolina State. I look, as a betting man, I will never bet against Buddy Pugh as a betting man.
I can't argue with that one. I cannot argue with that.
But my heart tells me Central will win, if that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. I can and see. I'm looking at Central and Norfolk State. I'm looking at Central and Norfolk State. I'm thinking,
and they played in the second to last week of the season.
Yes. And see, the only reason why I'm not giving South Carolina State the victory again, Coach Pugh knows what it takes to win. His players, on the other hand, they're not going to take it as serious. And they're going to make the mistakes. Not Coach Pugh, but his players. His players are the ones that won the game against Jackson State, because based on the questions that I asked them. Because Coach Pugh was the one that won that game in that 4th and 19 scenario. Because his players were like, oh, wait a minute, what we going to go for it on the 4th and 19 play?
Yes.
And because one of his coaches said, why'd I go for it? And he looked at him. I think it was the offensive coordinator. He looked at him and he was like, okay. And they talked about it. More detail went into it, but they talked about it. He kept the field goal team and the offensive team on the sideline in the same huddle.
Yes. Just
to keep Jackson State guessing. And then at the end, Jackson State didn't know which team to send out there. Whether or not it's going to be the field goal team or if it's going to be the offense. And then he kicked out the offense and told them to run. I can't remember the actual play that it was, but because of the play, they had missed the hitch route, a hitch route. And because they had missed it a few other times, they called it again. And because they didn't have the defense set for that play, they got 21 yards on a 4th and 19 play. And you have to, and that's why I have to agree with what you're saying about Coach Pugh. Look at what he did. He slapped him in the face. Slapped him in the face. For that game, at that moment, he outcoached Coach Prime.
Yes, he did.
At that moment, at that game, during that time.
Correct.
He outcoached him.
Correct.
But I say that his players had a chip on their shoulder from the time they came out on that field until the game was over. That was the deciding factor in that championship game with what South Carolina State brought to the game. And if they're going to win the conference again this year, they have to play with that same kind of chip on their shoulder. Otherwise, you're correct. Central, or as far as I'm concerned, Norfolk State will end up winning the conference. And the sleeper will be Morgan State.
Delaware State.
And you say Del State?
Yes.
I'm
Delaware
saying
Delaware. Given that scenario that I laid out, Delaware State will be the one team that throws a wrinkle in there and gives one of those teams and gives that team the second loss.
Yeah, I give you that. And the only reason why I say Del State is because when you have a coach with the pedigree that Coach Wilson has, he will find a way to beat you. He will come up with a wrinkle ain't nobody else came up with. He will come up with this player. that sits on the other side of the bench and bring him into the game. And they'll be like, who the hell is he?
I believe it's the last weekend in October, first weekend in November. Morgan State plays South Carolina State. I don't have the schedule in front of me.
Yeah, and I don't have that schedule either.
Circle that game, though. Circle that game. It's late because Morgan will not get off to a good start.
No.
But by that time, I think they're going to have some things clicking, and they'll come up, and at the end, they won't win it, but they'll prevent somebody else from winning it.
Their last 4 games, I don't know who they are, but I can guarantee you their last 4 games for Morgan State, whoever they play, they will either go 4-0 in their last 4 games, or they will lose those games by 7 points or less.
I give you that.
In their last 4 games because of the coach.
I give you that.
Well, and because of the length of time we've gone, this has been a great show. And
yes,
we have gone 3 solid hours. And next week, we're going to take a closer, in-depth look at, we're going to pick a conference. Let's take a look at the SIAC. And we're going to take an in-depth look at the SIAC and really get deep into the weeds. But what's going to happen the week leading into the MEAC Swac Challenge, we're going to take a real close look at both of those conferences. So with that being the case, AD, what's your final word for today? And as a matter of fact, let me stop sharing and get into this real quick. Oh, well, get into this real quick. So AD, what's your final word, man?
Look, appreciate the invitation. Definitely want to come back and talk SIAC. See if I can clear up my calendar and come back and talk with you next week on the SIAC, since people say I'm the SIAC whisperer. But the only thing that I'm going to leave people is make sure that you support all Black media. If you want to support me and what I do, Black College Sports Network, bcSN.net on the internet. Download our app available on the Google Play or the Apple App Store. You search for myJBN/mybcsn. You can catch our full family of podcasts and live sports productions right there on the BCSN
Network
app. Hey, yes. Hey, guess what? We're available on anywhere in audio form that you catch your streams. iHeart, Breaker, Spotify, Anchor, whatever it is. Search for the BCSN Pod Zone. You will get the audio version of every podcast from the Black College Sports Network right there on the BCSN Pod Zone. And if you want to catch me specifically on one of my podcasts, every Sunday night on the Black College Sports Network.
That's what I was waiting on.
Join myself and my partner, Brian Fulford, on the BCSN Sports Wrap. That's 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, each and every Sunday night on the Black College Sports Network. And you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and all forms of social media at MyBCSN and the number 1. Once again, that's at MyBCSN and the number 1. And here's my final plug. I know I'm a little long.
Yeah,
you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at BCSN Drew. That's BCSN DREW. Michael, open invitation to join us on any of the BCSN pod zones each and every Sunday night from 6 to 8 p.m. We'll definitely be there to give you a block. Ironically, give you a block of time.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely give you some time there as we go through. We're also previewing the four different conferences. This week on the Sports Wrap, we'll be actually previewing the independent schools. There are 7 Division II independent schools, Division II or NAIA independent schools. So those will be the ones we'll be focused on this week because we've already completed the FCS schools. So,
gotcha. And see, this is what we have to do, and I have to agree with what Drew just said. We have to support each other. We have to make sure that we support each other regardless what we're doing. And are we competitors? Yes. Are we competitors? No. Because if we were true competitors, would I have him on the show? Hell no. Would he invite me to his show? Hell no. But we have to support each other.
I don't consider you a competition, and that's no disrespect, because you do what you do in your space. I do what I do in
your space. Yes.
And I am good at what I do in my space.
Yes.
You are good at what you do in your space. And as long as up here I know that I'm good at what I do in my space, you're no competition. You're no threat. You're
vice versa.
And at this point in time, you're enhancing my brand. I'm enhancing your brand. It's all about enhancement.
And see, every person that I bring on, I always want to make sure that they point out who they are and what they do. Because when Dr. Cavill would be on the show, I made sure that he talked about what he did, and what he does. When Luke Williams is on the show, I make sure that he talks about what he does and where we can find all of his information. Whoever is on the show, I want to make sure that we talk about that. I'm a grad of Jackson State. What did I allow you to do? Tuskegee, FAM. We're going to talk about the SI. We have to make sure we talk about HBCU sports, the things that we're doing to elevate HBCUs. We talked about what Coach Prime did. Now, did he graduate from an HBCU? No, he didn't. But is he helping to bring more eyes on HBCU sports? Yes, he is. But it's still up to us. Because guess what? If Coach Prime decided to say, you know what? I'm done with Jackson State. I'm going to Florida State. I'm going to Texas. I'm going to LSU. I'm going
back to the ranch.
I'm going back to the ranch. Then guess what happens? We're still here. Those HBCU schools are still here. We're still playing the brand of football we've always played. And not only that, but each school is still playing the brand of sport. Football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, softball, bowling, doesn't matter, tennis, track and field. We're still participating and still doing the things that we've always done. So not only are we supporting each other in the media, make sure you continue to support your favorite HBCU. And if you do not have an HBCU that you graduated from, find one that you like. Find one that you want to support, and make sure that you support that HBCU, and make sure that you give them the full support. Find a friend. Find someone. Because guess what? Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, Jackie Slater, Michael Strahan. We can continue to go on and on in terms of number one football players that are currently in the Hall of Fame that graduated from an HBCU. We may not have as many, but we have quite a few that's in the Hall of Fame. Quite a few. So check that out. Doug Williams, first African American to win a Super Bowl when they said quarterbacks did not have the aptitude to even play the game. And after Elway threw a touchdown, had a 10-0 lead, he only went out to win the game.
For the next 55 points.
55-10. But he didn't have the aptitude to play. And where did he graduate from? Grambling.
The G.
That's right. So make sure you continue to support your local HBCU. And if you don't have an HBCU, make sure you support an HBCU if you did not graduate from one.
And if you don't know which one to send it to Florida A&M or Tuskegee.
Or Jackson State.
Or Jackson State.
So have to put that, and I'd have to say just because of my cousins and my others, or Alcorn or Prairie View or FAMU, like my son, he graduated from FAM.
Look, you got 101 of them. Pick
Yeah,
one.
and as much, my mom graduated from Arkansas Pine Bluff. My stepfather graduated from Alabama State. So you see, guys, you got to support somebody because we represent all of them. What did you say? 101? Yes, 101.
Just pick one.
Just pick one. Now, we've lost a couple, but still. And the reason why we lost them because somebody didn't support them. So with all of that being said, guys, see you next week, 8 p.m., Tuesday night, same time, same place, www.yourstreet.tv. And we will be on here taking a more in-depth look at the SIAC. And if you have questions or comments, just go ahead and send them to me at michaelj@jcconnect.net, or just go on the website at yourstreet.tv, subscribe, send your information in, send your questions in, and we'll make sure we hit them from there. We have more people subscribing, and instead of asking questions, you're subscribing. That's even better. So God bless you. AD, see you next week. And we're going to talk about SIAC football. So, 1 second.
We'll holler.
But we'll see you later. God bless.
We'll holler.